Have you ever underestimated someone because they were different from you? In a world not so different from ours, nestled among tall, whispering trees and glistening streams, a unique tale unfolds. Our story stars two unlikely heroes, the swift hare, known for his speed and agility, and the slow tortoise, celebrated for his patience and determination. The hare, agile and swift, was the talk of the forest. He was admired for his speed, but his quickness was not just physical. His mind was just as fast, always thinking, always calculating. But with his lightning-fast speed came a dash of overconfidence that often landed him in tricky situations. He was quick to judge and quicker to act, but was he quick to learn? Time would tell. Then there was the tortoise. Ah, the tortoise, slow and steady, as the saying goes. The tortoise was not one to rush. He took his time, whether he was munching on a leaf or making his way through the forest. He was often the butt of the hare's jokes. "Slowpoke," the hare would call him, laughing as he sped past. But the tortoise, with his hard shell and even harder resolve, shrugged it off. He knew speed wasn't everything. He knew that sometimes patience and perseverance paid off more than quick wit and agility. Their personalities were as different as night and day. The hare was the embodiment of speed and overconfidence, the tortoise, a symbol of patience and determination. The forest was buzzing with excitement, anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Word had spread. The hare and the tortoise were to race. A race between the speedster hare and the slow-moving tortoise? Surely the outcome was obvious, or so they thought. But our tortoise friend had a glint in his eye, a spark of determination that promised an amusing and imaginative race. And so, the stage was set for the most unusual race the animal kingdom had ever seen. But what if your opponent is not as they seem? Picture this: a hare, a creature known for its speed and agility, laughing at the idea of racing against a tortoise, an animal that's the epitome of slow and steady. The hare's laughter echoed through the forest, making the surrounding inhabitants chuckle and smirk. "A race against you?" he snorted. "That's like challenging the sun to a brightness contest." And there, in the midst of the laughter, stood the tortoise, unfazed, a small smile playing on his lips. He shrugged his shoulders, a gesture of tranquility that seemed almost out of place. "I understand your amusement," said the tortoise. "However, I believe there's more to a race than just speed." His words, though simple, had a profound impact. The laughter died down and curiosity filled the air. The hare, still grinning, agreed to the race, convinced that this would be the easiest victory of his life. As the news of the race spread, the forest was abuzz with excitement and anticipation. The hare, with his confidence soaring higher than an eagle, strutted around, accepting the praises and well-wishes of the other animals. He was the picture of overconfidence, a balloon ready to burst at the slightest prick. Meanwhile, the tortoise, with his nonchalant attitude, continued his slow-paced life, seemingly unconcerned about the upcoming challenge. He was the embodiment of calm amidst the storm, a beacon of patience and perseverance. His quiet confidence was a stark contrast to the hare's loud arrogance. The hare's overconfidence was humorous, to say the least. He was like a king who already saw his victory even before the battle had begun. On the other hand, the tortoise's nonchalance was intriguing. He was like a warrior who knew that the real battle was not against the opponent, but against oneself. The day of the race arrived, and all the animals gathered to watch this spectacle. Isn't it funny how things don't always go as planned? The race was on, and the hare, with his lightning-fast legs, quickly left the tortoise in his dust. With the wind rushing through his fur, he looked back and chuckled, seeing the tortoise barely inching along. The hare was so far ahead, in fact, that he decided to take a little break. "What's the rush?" he thought to himself. "I've got all the time in the world." Meanwhile, our tortoise friend was plodding along, one tiny, determined step at a time. His pace was slow, but he never once stopped or strayed from his path. The sun was high in the sky and the road was long, but the tortoise, with a heart full of resolve, kept moving forward. "Slow and steady," he reminded himself. "Slow and steady." Back at the hare, he was sprawled under a tree, snoring away, dreaming of his imminent victory. A butterfly fluttered around his nose, but he just swatted it away in his sleep. He was so deeply asleep, in fact, that he didn't hear the soft, steady thump-thump-thump of the tortoise's approach. Yes, you heard that right! Our tortoise, with his dogged determination, was slowly but surely catching up. The crowd watched in disbelief as the tortoise, with a look of sheer determination on his face, passed the sleeping hare. The cheers of the crowd didn't wake the hare, who was still dreaming about standing on the victory podium. The sun began to set, casting long shadows on the racetrack, and the tortoise, persistent as ever, was drawing closer and closer to the finish line. The crowd was on their toes, their eyes wide with anticipation as they watched the slowest creature about to pull off the biggest upset in history. The hare woke up to an unbelievable sight. The tortoise was almost at the finish line. The crowd gasped, the hare's jaw dropped, and the tortoise, well, he just kept moving, one steady step at a time. Have you ever heard the saying, slow and steady wins the race? Well, our friend the tortoise is a living testament to that age-old adage. Picture this. The finish line is in sight, and our tortoise, despite being the underdog, is inching ever so slowly towards it. Now let's turn our attention to the hare, shall we? He's lounging under a tree, confident in his victory, dreaming about the lavish celebrations he's going to throw with his friends. But wait, what's that he hears? The soft murmur of the crowd growing louder? He opens one eye, then another. The sight that greets him is beyond his wildest dreams. The tortoise, his competitor, is just about to cross the finish line. The hare springs to his feet, his heart pounding like a drum. He races towards the finish line with all the speed he can muster. But alas, it's too late. The tortoise, with a beaming smile on his face, steps over the finish line. The crowd erupts in cheers, their applause echoing through the forest. The hare stands there, huffing and puffing, disbelief written all over his face. He had been so sure of his victory, and yet, here he was, defeated by the slowest creature in the forest. The tortoise walks over to him, a humble smile gracing his features. He extends a paw in a friendly gesture. The hare, after a moment's hesitation, takes it. The tortoise had won, not because he was the fastest, but because he persevered. He never gave up, never faltered, and most importantly, he didn't let the hare's arrogance get to him. The hare, on the other hand, learned a valuable lesson that day. He realized that overconfidence can be one's downfall, and that everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. In the end, it was the tortoise's determination and resilience that led him to victory. He triumphed not just in the race, but also in proving a point. That slow and steady does indeed win the race, and so the tortoise proved that speed is not always the key to success. So what does this unusual race teach us? Well, let's begin with our overconfident hare. He was quick, no doubt about that. But he let his speed get to his head, didn't he? He underestimated the slow and steady tortoise, assuming he was the guaranteed winner. And that's the first lesson, folks. Never underestimate anyone. Each of us has our unique strengths and capabilities. It's crucial to respect that, instead of writing someone off just because they don't fit our definition of strong or capable. Now, on to our hero of the day. The tortoise. Slow and steady, yes, but also wise and determined. He knew he wasn't the fastest, but did he give up? Nope. He kept going, one small step at a time. He didn't let the hare's taunts or his own slow pace discourage him. And that's lesson number 2, perseverance. It's not about how fast you start, but whether you keep going, even when the odds are against you. And finally, let's talk about humility. Our hare could have used a good dose of that, couldn't he? His overconfidence was his downfall. He thought he was so far ahead that he could afford to rest. And while he was snoozing, the tortoise overtook him and won the race. That's lesson number 3, humility. No matter how good you are, there's always room for improvement, and there's always a chance that someone else might be better. So you see, this tale isn't just about a race between a tortoise and a hare. It's about life and the values we need to embrace to navigate it successfully. It's a reminder to never underestimate others, to keep persevering no matter what, and to stay humble, no matter how successful we become. In the end, it's not about how fast you are, but how you run the race.